And there we are. Let me bring it up here. I think we're live. Hopefully with new and improved audio. I've purchased a little mic to a nice Rode mic to go with the this phone, specifically made for Apple devices. Let me just bring up my little thing here. Let's hear the sound. Blah blah blah. Hey, sounds pretty good. Okay, let's shut up the sound and open pop out chat. There we go. All right. Oh, anyway, hi. I am just home from work, and I wanted to. You looking at me? There's Ollie the dog, little black spot right there, eyeballing me. I'm gonna take you out for a walk in just a bit. But I just wanted to take a moment and follow up on a promise. I had promised to talk a little more about the project management stuff. A couple of things I wanted to talk about. I have to find a way to do this in such a manner that I'm not. Oh, so this is a SharePoint project manager video, and I'm Kurt. I'm your SharePoint project manager. And so this is if you're not interested in project management or business analyst work or that field, then this video may not be for you. So I started doing this series as a means of sharing these methodologies, and in particular some best practices, and in particular of process that I developed to use in the organization where I work that seems to work. Seems to be pretty simple and straightforward. It's I call it the SharePoint Online Project Management Methodology. 10 steps, 4 documents, and you too can run a project from start to finish. And I've been able to leave a string of pretty happy sponsors over the last couple of years, and so I'm starting to share it and expand it. So I thought I'd start making some of these videos. But in particular today, I was thinking about talking about scope creep. But I changed my mind at the last moment, so I'll save that. Main reason I wanted to save it is that I need to find a way to talk about what I do without talking about what I do. You know, I work in a very proprietary and sensitive environment. I work in the public sector on projects that are serve the public good, and I think it's good practice to kind of keep my mouth shut. So I'll find a way to do that. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing is to creating some fictitious projects to illustrate things from the life cycle through. Maybe I'll start that right now. So I mentioned in the last video that projects. He's climbed up on the thing. He's staring at me. You wonder who I'm talking to? So projects sometimes come to us in various ways. In mature organizations, there's probably an initiation process by which management under guidance of subject matter experts will help to vet a problem or a proposal in such a way as to determine should this be a formal project, assign a project manager to it, give it all the methodologies, or should it simply be what my organization would call initiatives, where you simply give that to a supervisor or a manager who will then give it to a supervisor to say, here, run that initiative. And the supervisor will typically do that with his or her team to the best of their ability without a whole formal methodology. So how does that happen? So in my last video, I mentioned that some organizations will have a proper process, a full-on process, initiation process by which that's done. And our organization does indeed have that. But back in the early time when I first started, we didn't have that, and it was things just kind of came in. Customers had a problem, they had a complaint, they had a need, and our organization was tasked to find a solution. There were, again, I don't want to get into my own organization too much, but what has basically emerged is that project managers are tasked to run projects that require that type of due diligence, particularly when there may be multiple irons in the fire, several plates spinning in the air. Lots of things happen. Dependencies have to come together to make a deliverable, the project's end deliverable on time, to specification, and within costs. So let's imagine that something just starts up. So imagine that we're in business, and there's a market potential. Maybe someone realizes that there's a niche that we might be able to fill. So it's a brainchild, and it might be pitched on an elevator pitch. Typically, what would then happen is that a team would be assembled. That elevator pitch might, if it was given to an executive, for example, might be, tasked to a manager to say, hey, would you please look into this? There's some potential there. That manager then will assemble a team of subject matter experts to give them input, and maybe tap an analyst to perhaps write up a proposal. Remember, I said that in a lot of these organizations, it's not so clear cut about who the analyst is and who the project manager is. In my particular organization, they tend to be one and the same, and there are very different skill sets. In some very mature organizations, they are very distinct job roles, training, and skill sets. And typically, a large project would have one or more project managers assigned to it, and some analysts as well. Typically, the analysts come first, because the analysts would step into the scene to basically perform the process of identifying what the problem is and what the potential cost-benefit analysis would be. Perform a cost-benefit analysis to determine if this is a viable option. Also perhaps do a market analysis. All of these are very specific skills. In the organization where I work, let me break it down even more simpler than that. According to the process that I use, I make it really simple. I break it down to what I call, and what is an industry term, a business case. But when I use that term, you'll find this a lot in the industry. People use particular terms, but they may not mean the same thing from one professional to another. Charter has a definite meaning, but some people use it to describe the actual business proposal. Some use charter to simply describe the email that the sponsor sends out to alert the organization that a project has been sanctioned, and Mr. or Ms. XYZ will be the assigned project manager. In my process that I use, I don't use charter with the exception of the title of one big document that I make that has 3 sections: the business case, the project proposal, and the project plan. And I wrap all that up into a document called the Phased Project Charter. So I kind of slip that in because some managers and executives don't feel comfortable if they're being pitched something and there's no charter. So I wanted to slip that charter word in there, so at least it's in there. But I'm kind of stretching the seams a little bit. And part of the reason was I wanted to make it a very simple process. 3, really 4 steps. There's another 4, but the fourth is the second document. The first is the business case. And the business case is very straightforward. In fact, as I proceed with these videos, I'll probably get to the point where I can start showing you some templates, because I developed all of this stuff and then brought it into the organization. So I created this stuff on my own, and I can show it to you. It's not proprietary or anything like that. Show you the blanks, and it's just a 4-cell table that basically identifies, what is. First we say, what is it new, or is this an existing question? Are we talking about something right off, brand new, or are we building upon something that already exists? The 4 cells basically are the business case are the problem as described by the customer. What is the problem? A problem could be an opportunity, right? Masked in disguise. Some problems that really do have a potential positive spin or positive end result, which it's up to the analyst to kind of identify, is this something that we can spin to the good or spin what we're trying to avoid? Problem. Second part is, who does it affect? Not names, titles, things like customers, end users, employees, technicians, whoever the case may be, sponsors, managers, things like that. We want to know the titles, the categories of the groups that are doing it. No names yet. Third section is, how does it affect? How does the problem affect these people identified, these groups? So, for example, the problem is maybe that we recognize that there's a market niche for an app that does a particular something, right? And maybe let's call that something Snazzle. Okay, there's a market, and I probably strain myself to think of something. let's try this. Maybe there's a need for an app that you can put on your motorcycle. Well, it's actually a product that I just saw recently. It was like an airbag you wear on your bike like a vest, and when you crash, it blows up, right? So the problem statement in there would be motorcyclists are exposed to extreme risk due to the fact that they have inadequate body protection. Very, very simple. You can nutshell it down to part of the art of the analyst is to really nutshell it down into business language, not using extraneous language. Tough one for me. Keeping it concise and to the point. So 2 or 3 sentences describing the thing. Motorcyclists currently do not have adequate body protection in the case of an accident. So next, who does it affect? Well, the individuals that affect might be the motorcyclists, other people in the traffic, other people on the road, the families of the motorcyclists, the police officers, insurance agents, the insurance companies, the tow truck drivers, morticians, doctors, CHP. All this, you can come up with all these groups and how it affects and who they are that affect. These are, in essence, our stakeholders. Stakeholders may be somebody you never meet, maybe a customer. It may be someone who, if you're just striving to make the world a better place, that will enjoy a better world by virtue of your efforts. Third cell basically takes that same list of stakeholders, puts them down there again, and then describes how each of those individuals are affected. Now we are be able to understand the nuance of how this potential problem could affect groups, and then specifically how. Still no names. The fourth section is where, if I'm working with a customer, I would ask them point blank, just if you could snap your fingers and have a solution, what would that solution look like? And I sit and I just listen as they feed it to me, right? Well, it would be something that would, and I try not to let them get too tangled up in the solutioning yet. Just tell me what it would look like. It would be something that in an instant, detecting an automobile accident, almost like an airbag on a car, would inflate and protect the most vital aspects of the body, parts of the body. So I'll type that all down, right? I can typically do this in a half an hour with a customer. So as a project manager / analyst, when my supervisor comes to me and tags me and says, Kurt, I want you to head on down to the department of ABC, and I want you to meet Mr. XYZ, and I want you to talk to him about the problem he's got with the airbags. There's something about motorcyclists crashing. So I'll gather up my stuff, my little computer, I'll put together, I don't even need that. I just need a blank copy of my business case document, and I'll do that all in phases. I introduce it in phases. I'll just bring the business case portion, which is no more than 2 pages. Just bring that section down with me. I could bring a pen. Typically, I write it up on the computer. I go down, I'm losing my battery. And if I drive, then that's because the battery went dead. And I type it all up. I'm going to have to wrap up real soon. Type it all up. And now, this is the important part, and I'll wrap up with this. After that is done with the business case, I've identified what the new or existing challenge. What is the problem? Who does it affect? How does it affect them? And what does the customer think a perfect solution would look like? I then ask them a couple of simple, real things. What's the priority? And what's the size, roughly? And I'll try to estimate that a little bit. And then I have a few other details from my organization. But then I take that, I shake their hands. I promise nothing. Don't do that. Part of the reason I wrote this document in this way is that there's no solutioning at this point. What the heck do I know about body bags, for motorcycle blowing up airbags? I don't know anything about that. One of the problems is that if I try to get into solving the problem and promise the customer something, then they have an expectation set when I may not have been qualified to do that. So I shake their hand, tell them I've got the information. I'll tell them I'll be back in a week to talk about a solution, and I charge off. And I go back to my organization. And when I arrive back at my organization, I'll go to my supervisor and I say, hey, I had a pretty good meeting. I was able to complete the business case. It looks like I'm going to need a couple of, batteries running low down here. Looks like I'm going to need a couple of people. I'm going to probably need a couple supervisor from the mechanical engineering group, maybe a supervisor from, or a subject matter expert at least, someone who really knows their stuff. From from safety or whatever. You could put together a team, right, from the organization, put them in a room together, throw this thing up on the screen, explain it all out to them, and ask for some suggestions. The goal, the next phase, is the project proposal. What we as a group for our organization will put together to propose to the customer. Now, in this case, I have a client-customer type of relationship, right? Sometimes it's internal, so the customer is within the organization. It's much easier. But when you have an external customer, you want to make sure you come back with a well-vetted proposal, one or more proposals to the aforementioned problem identified in the business case. And we'll save that for the next video. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, and Ollie and I are going to go for a walk. Hey, Ollie, come here. Say hi to everybody. Yeah, my good boy. Oh. We're going to walk all the way to the end of the Irvine spectrum and back. Can you say hi? Woo! You're not going to do that, are you? Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Take care. Have a great day, and may all your projects be completed on time, to specification, and within budget. Take care. That's a good ending. See ya.